The following is a production of 4-Star Sports Media.
Are you hungry? It's time to sit down and get full of sports on the Sports Buffet presented by 4-Star Sports Media with your host, Wes Pruitt.
What's going on, folks? Wes Pruitt, 4-Star Sports Media. You're sitting down at the Sports Buffet, a little afternoon edition here on 4-Star Sports Media Network. I'm your host, Wes Pruitt. You'll be seeing us here shortly. I got John Sturdivant in the house as well. We got a jam-packed show for you. Going to start off with a hot question of the day. Then we got two polls. Then we're going to get into a little PGA, talk a little bit of the Open that just took place over the weekend. Then we'll take some laps like we normally do on Mondays with NASCAR, talk a little Brickyard 400 from Indianapolis. Then we're going to get into the ACC kickoff as it takes off today. There's also the American that kicks off today as well. Then we'll get Coach Larry Fedora, former head coach Larry Fedora, on air from 1 to 1:15 today. And then we'll finish up with our dessert where we go through a list of top coaches. All that and more right here on the Sports Buffet on the 4-Star Sports Media Network. Let's go. Welcome in. Thank you everybody watching and listening. Everyone over at the live feed there in camera. Got John Sturdivant over there. What's going on, John? By the way, you are on mute, by the way.
I'm good. It's a Monday afternoon.
You're on mute, buddy.
The
There you go.
rain is coming through once again.
Yep. Came through here yesterday. So, all right, man. Let's get it cranked up with the burning question of the show, and that is real simple, John. What college coach has the hottest seat? I should have put college football coach. Sorry. What college football coach has the hottest seat in the nation? Go ahead, John.
I don't have
Who you
one
got?
yet. I don't have one right now on top of my head. Let's just say that.
Oh, you don't?
I'll answer that. No, I'll answer it on the end of the show.
Okay. All right. Okay. All right. Well, the question is, I'm getting it fixed here. Hang on one second.
Well, you should have done is give us like
what
4 typical
college
answers.
Go ahead.
So what you should have done is give us like a list of 4 answers, and then we'll go from there. No.
Yeah, I was gonna do that. Yeah, I was gonna do that. But I just figured I would ask the simple, just straight up, give me your.
All right, I'll just give you one on top of my head right now. Then the one that rings the bell. He played at the University of Hawaii back in the day. Then Tommy Chang at Hawaii. I know he's a legend there, but last year he went the year 5-8. This year he turns 8 starters. He turns 7 starters on defense. So I'll go with Tommy Chang from Hawaii. Although the schedule is kind of brutal, but this ain't the same Hawaii team from the back in the day where they used to have like 8 or 9 wins. And the Mountain West is just getting better and better. And I think this is one of the years. Tommy Chang, your seat is a little bit warm because you got to get 7 or 8 wins to get Hawaii back on track. You had that chance last year when you played Vanderbilt in your own stadium, and you didn't capitalize when it mattered most.
Very true, man. And we'll talk more about Hawaii football at the end of the show when we talk about favorite coaches. But I'm sure that just gave away. But man, that's a good one, John. I wasn't expecting that. That's a good one. I like it. I like Chang. Of course, man, he was so much fun to watch when he was an absolute blast. All right, man. Let's go to poll question number 1. So we're talking a little bit about the ACC today. So poll question number 1 is, there it is. Which team in the ACC has the most to prove in 2024? Is that Wake Forest? Is that Florida State? Is that Clemson? Or is that new team coming in, SMU? The Ponies. I'm sorry. The Mustangs, not the Ponies. I'm sorry. Do the Mustangs have something to prove? All right. Poll question number 2. The Olympics start this week. Will the Team USA men's basketball win gold in Paris?
They should.
Will they do it? Who knows?
They should.
John? I mean, you know, You would think they should, but they also should have beat the Sudan the other day, and they won on a last-second layup from, King James himself. Not Bron, baby James. I'm talking about King James, LeBron. All right, man. Man, John, packed show today, dude. PGA Tour, a little NASCAR. Then we're going to get into the ACC. I'm excited about the ACC, man. And then, man, Larry Fedora. A guy that, he's always been one of my favorites. A guy that always showed passion on the sideline. That's for dang sure. From 1 to 115 today, and then we'll close up with dessert. And John, I'm very excited about the list we're going to do at the end of the show. If you want to talk,
that list is going to be interesting. Non-Power 5, top 5, and then top 10 Power 5 of all-time coaches from our era, basically when we started watching college football. So it's definitely going to be pretty interesting.
Yeah, I think it will be too, man. It's going to be very, very interesting. But let's go ahead and jump over to the main course, and let's talk a little PGA, as we would see Xander Schauffele, get the win yesterday, John, and he made history. Did you happen to watch any of the any of the Open?
I watched a little bit here and there because some of the top golfers really didn't make the cut per se, or even withdrew at times, and it was an interesting weekend. Yeah, I watched a little bit of it here and there, but it was nasty weather. First of all, it seemed like it's every year nasty weather, from the wind to the rain to the 60-mile-an-hour wind gust to people just struggling on the golf course completely. And I watched a little bit of it. What was your thoughts on some players that maybe didn't even make past the first round at times? It's kind of interesting because John Daly's still withdrawing, it looks like. And looks like he's still injured or something, because he withdrew after that first round of a score of an 82, I might add. So, what's up? Hey, John Daly, at least I'm not trying to get in your personal life or anything like that, but if you're injured, why even participate in a tournament like this?
Well, it's just because I know. I can answer that. It's just it's because it's the Open. It's a big time golf tournament. It's one of the most prestige tournaments on the PGA Tour. It's why everybody plays in it. And it's one of those things. It's just like in I can't remember the other tournament he played in, the Players Championship. He shot like a 17 over par, and then dropped out because he messed up his thumb or something. So at that age, man, get out there and play. If you want to get out there and play. If you're hurt, okay, then go home. But I was what really impressed me, John, was, first off, you're right. The weather was brutal. We're actually going to have more about this. I got a guy named Rick Bollock that I'm going to get. I'm working on an article with him now. He was at the Open, and then now he's heading over to the Olympics. So it's going to be kind of a multi-headed article. Going to be a lot of fun talking to him. But he was there. He was at the Open, and what really impressed me was the fact that there was so many golfers that was just a few. There was 7 golfers started the final day, one shot back of Billy Horschel. One shot back. So to post a 65 on Sunday, just like he did in the final round of the PGA tournament. Big time stuff. With the win, though, he becomes the sixth golfer to win the first two majors in the same year, and also the sixth to win the PGA and the Open in the same year. Tiger Woods did it twice, but we'll go through 1924. I know all of us remember that. 1924, Walter Hagen did it. 1994, Nick Price. 2000, 2006 was Tiger. 2008 was Padraig Harrington. 2014, Rory McIlroy did it. And then, of course, Xander did it over the weekend. He did say, quote, "It was hard. It was very difficult." He said it was hard. It was very difficult. I think winning the first one helped me a lot today on the back nine. I had some feeling of calmness come through. It was very helpful on what has been one of the hardest back nines I've ever played in a tournament. He said, I mean, it's a dream come true to win two majors in 1 year. It took me forever just to win one, and now to have two is something special. He did describe his Sunday bogey-free round as, quote, the best round he's ever played. According to ESPN stats and information, he is the first golfer in the Masters era, which is since 1934, to have multiple rounds of a 65 or better in majors in the same year. It's the seventh consecutive major won by an American golfer, the longest such streak since they captured 13 straight from 1974 to 1977. Hold on, John. I'm almost done. I know there's just a lot of stats here. In the first year since 1982, the U.S. golfers claimed all four majors, with Scottie Scheffler winning the Masters, Bryson DeChambeau capturing the U.S. Open, and then Xander winning the other two. He's also the first golfer since Brooks Koepka in 2018 to win, who won the U.S. Open and the PGA, to claim two majors in one season. And like I said, he's only the seventh to do it. Man, I mean, a shot of 65. That's the 65 is tied for the lowest, fourth lowest final round by a winner in the Open. Hendrik Stenson shot a 63 in 2016. Cameron Smith shot a 64 in 2022. The great shark, Greg Norman, everyone should know Greg, in 93 shot a 64. And then Xander was tied with Justin Leonard, Steve Ballesteros, and Tom Watson, who all shot a 65. And I don't know if you saw the crowd, John, but they actually set an all-time record for attendance at any golf tournament taking place at the Royal Tune.
Played this past weekend. Who kind of has surprised you, or who surprised you over the weekend with their scores?
Man, I mean, Justin Rose continues to play really, really, really good golf. I'm a big fan of Justin Rose for sure. But, I mean, you go back and look. I mean, you look at Daniel Brown. He's, a local English kid. Actually grew up on a pig and cow farm. He almost gave up golf a few years ago, but he had four bogeys in his first 6 holes to fall back from even. He was 5 strokes behind the early leaders, but he was 3 over 74 in his last. He shot at 3 over 74 in his last 18 holes, finishing a even par 284, which tied him for 10th. He said, poor front nine. That's basically it. I struggled on the front nine. Really, I don't think I scored as well as the other guys around on the front nine. But to see him play really well, Justin Thomas is another one, man. 2-time major champion. We know who Justin Thomas is if you follow golf. But he started the final round 4 strokes back from the leader, and then completely took himself out of the hunt when he took a wildly crazy tee shot. And then had to re-tee on the opening hole, which took a triple bogey 7. But he tied for 31st at 6 over, and then posted a 6 over 77 in the final round. I was not expecting it. My point being, as high as he was to start the day, he really surprised me as one to just dive down. And then Brown is the other one. Now, I will say this, John. Did you know that Scotland's Callum Scott was competing at Texas Tech last year, but he won the silver medal as the low amateur. He carded a 5 under 76 on Sunday to finish at 8 over 282. So a rookie is out here playing well in the Open. I love it, man. All right, up next, let's jump over to NASCAR, take some laps real quick. We saw the Brickyard 400. Obviously, it is a historic race in the NASCAR circuit, but we saw a wild finish as we saw numerous overtimes. We saw wrecks. We saw guys, so it was very weird. So in the, third overtime, Brad Keselowski had the lead, or was in first place. Was very curious as to whether he had enough gas or not. And at the very end, he dives off with a pace car that moves Kyle Larson up. But in the rule, Ryan Blaney, would have actually had the lead at that time, but I guess he didn't make the move anyway. Kyle Larson ended up winning the race, his 27th victory in the Cup Series, and he has run 352 total Cup Series races. His fourth victory and 11th top 10 in 2024. Also his first victory and fourth top 10 in the 7 races so far at Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Tyler Reddick would finish second, posting his second top 10 in 2 races at the Speedway. It is also his 15th top 10 finish in 2024. Aforementioned Ryan Blaney would finish third, posting his second top 10 finish in 7 races at Indianapolis. Carson Hocevar was the highest finishing rookie as he finished 12th, and Kyle Larson just extended that lead just a smidge more. Still leads by 10 points over Chase Elliott, who actually wrecked in the race. But man, the Brickyard's always a lot of fun to watch. Fuel is always an issue there because it's a humongous track. It's like 2.5 mile long track. So you're driving a little further than the average track in NASCAR. So, I mean, when we see it every year, and we saw it this year, where Brad Keselowski had to bow out on literally like they were getting ready to come to the start finish line to take off. And when the pace car dove off, so did Brad Keselowski. And that ended up giving Kyle Larson the opportunity to get the win. John, what's up, man?
Yeah, we both seem to have technical difficulties for like a second. I do apologize for that. But yeah, in NASCAR was definitely interesting over the weekend. Bubba Wallace still improving each race, it seems. Yeah, we got like another top 10 finish over the weekend. Yep. And it's going to be interesting down the road on how people finished on the standings, and whatnot, because this totally has changed over the last couple of years on how they do things regarding points and all that. And I won't be surprised if Bubba Wallace does get a win in this couple of races, just the way that he is definitely improving each race, it seems, lately.
Yeah, Bubba's been driving really strong lately. And of course, the whole Bubba Wallace, Denny Hamlin, Michael Jordan combination has been really, really fun to watch. It's a very unique dynamic in NASCAR, but it's been fun to watch for sure. Just how they've gotten better as a team. They've grown as a team. Michael Jordan is just about at every single race. He's very active, very hands-on in this NASCAR thing that he's got going. And he's got his hands in a few different pots. So, John, let's take a quick break, man. When we come back, we're going to talk ACC Kickoff as you are sitting down at the sports buffet right here at the 4-Star Sports Media Network. We'll be right back, folks. What's going on, folks? Wes Pruitt right back at the Sports Buffet. It's Monday, July 22nd edition, right here on the 4-Star Sports Media Network. If you're watching right now on screen, you see me and you see John Sturdivant over there to my right. John, we're talking ACC. That's the Atlantic Coast Conference, and we'll get into how Atlantic Coast, the conference really is, here in just a second. But the kickoff, the ACC kickoff is what they call it. It's not a media day, John. It's a kickoff. But they get kicked off. They get kicked off today. That's funny. It kicks off today. But today you will have Commissioner Jim Phillips. He'll have a forum. He'll have a forum to start, John. A forum. Then we'll have Florida State Seminoles with Mike Norvell. Then we will bring in Georgia Tech with their head coach, Brent Key. And then we'll have SMU, because that is coastal. That's over there on the, that's over there, right? Southern Methodist University, the team in Dallas, right? That right. Okay, yeah, them. Then tomorrow we'll have Cal. Once again, that's East Coast, baby. Cal, and then we'll have Pitt. Then we'll have Stanford. We're over there. We'll have Stanford, Virginia Tech all tomorrow. Wednesday, the 24th, we'll have Boston College, Duke, Louisville, Miami, and Wake Forest. Thursday, the 25th, you'll have Clemson, North Carolina State, and Syracuse. So, John, jam-packed week. There's 59 student athletes representing the 17 football programs. So, John, as we get started, we got Larry Fedora coming on with us here in about a half hour. So we're just pushing towards Larry. John, when you look at the ACC, man, let's go through this, okay? So there's 19 quarterbacks coming, but there's 17 programs. I'll let y'all do the math on that. Go ahead, John.
Yeah, like you brought up on a previous post, Florida State ain't bringing their quarterback. He thought it would have been nice for the players to show up, players that showed up in that program that did a pretty good job year last year. And I don't blame him. I respect that decision, to be honest with you. I really do respect it. Let's be real. Florida State struggled against Louisville in that ACC championship game. No hard feelings to that coaching staff over at Florida State at all, because it's Mike Norvell and the gang and Preston Brady still on that staff for former Tiger. But it's not Florida State's fault for starting Brock Glenn in a game where his first career start, I might add, as well, in that Louisville game. And then to play Georgia I don't know, man. I guess that I'm still kind of shocked by Florida State not getting in at times last year, I guess, maybe. So I'm kind of surprised by that, still not getting in. I guess they did not win another Georgia TCU national title game where all the players optioned out for TCU that 1 year, I guess, maybe still. And to me, Florida State definitely should deserve in that top 4 spot. But I get where people are saying, yeah, Alabama won the SEC title still over Georgia last year, while Florida State did not get in. But come on now. I feel bad for Coach Norvell. I think Coach Norvell, this is the year, man, he starts off right off the bat on the first 2 weeks playing ACC games. So that'll be an interesting, matchup. Like he's talking about right now as we speak on ACC Kickoff, first 2 games are ACC opponents. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how people travel these days as well, for the West Coast to the East Coast or East Coast to the West Coast.
Yeah, and when you look at the ACC, I mean, it's really a conference of quarterbacks, and it really has been over the last few seasons. We are seeing the return of full-time starters. You've got Travis Castellanos at Boston College. You've got Cabe Klubnik out at Clemson. You've got Grayson Loftus at Duke. You've got Haynes King at Georgia Tech. You've got Preston Stone at SMU. Kyron Drones, a young man to really keep an eye on, out at Virginia Tech. then you've got transfers DJ Uiagalelei at Florida State, Tyler Slow at Louisville, and Cam Ward at Miami. And then you've got Grayson McCall at SMU and Kyle McCord at at Syracuse, among others. When you look at the ACC, they have the top-ranked group of quarterback transfers in 2024 rated by CBS Sports. 13 quarterbacks in the league into the 2024 season with over 29 career touchdown passes and 3,500 career passing yards. So when you look at the quarterbacks, John, and I just listed off roughly half the freaking league, I feel like.
Right.
Out of those quarterbacks that I just listed, who do you think is the biggest question mark, not as far as how good they are, but as far as who is behind them if something was to happen?
Dang, I was about to ask you that same question. Who's the top 2 quarterbacks that maybe has a breakout year or just needs to have something to improve? So you kind of read my mind about that. But the person that's really got to improve this year to show that I think that they can maybe surprise some people, maybe, per se, I'm going to give you I'll do King from Georgia Tech, just because Georgia Tech, this is a statement year that Georgia Tech doesn't need to be toward the bottom. They need to have those 6 or 7 wins again, in my honest opinion, to have a successful year for Georgia Tech. And I'm going to go with I really like Grayson McCall at North Carolina State. I know Phil still's got him on his 4th team, but I won't be surprised if he's going to be on the 2nd team before it's all said and done for North Carolina State, because I think North Carolina State has a good chance of winning 8 or 9 games this year for the Wolfpack.
100%. I mean, and then when you look at the 3 teams that are speaking today, it's Florida State, who's currently talking now. Then you got Georgia Tech and SMU. That's 3 quarterbacks that are going to be very interesting to keep an eye on. Of course, you got DJ Uiagalelei down at Florida State. I have been nailing his name this year. I don't know what's going on, but DJ Uiagalelei down at Florida State. And then you've got, as you mentioned, Haynes King at Georgia Tech, which I think is the one to really keep an eye on. But a guy that nobody's really talking about, and that's Preston Stone at SMU. We're obviously familiar with him after watching SMU for the last, I don't know, what feels like 20 years now, in conferences with Memphis. But those 3 guys specifically, of course, DJ has been there before. That's the other reason he didn't come, is because he has been to this event with Clemson, which I think that adds even more, just honestly, man, just class to that young man. And I really think it's cool. But when you look at who is there with these teams, so Florida State, obviously Mike Norvell. Then you've got Joshua Farmer, defensive tackle out of Point St. Joe, Florida. Then you've got Patrick Payton, defensive end out of Miami, Florida. And then you've got Darius Washington, not the basketball player. He's an offensive lineman out of Pensacola, Florida. And then for Georgia Tech, obviously you've got head coach Brent Key. Then you've got Zeke Biggers, defensive lineman out of Salisbury, North Carolina. You've got Javal Haynes, running back out of Loganville, Georgia. And then he brings Haynes King, quarterback out of Longview, Texas. And then for SMU, this is where it gets interesting, John. This is my next question to you. So you've got head coach Rhett Lashley. You've got quarterback Kevin Jennings from Oak Cliff, Texas. Then you've got tight end RJ Maryland out of Southlake, Texas. Then you've got defensive end Elijah Roberts out of Miami, Florida. But hold on. And then you bring Preston Stone, quarterback from Dallas, Texas. So when you look at this, and I'm scrolling now. Hold on one second. I'm scrolling now to just see, because I'm pretty sure they are the only team. No, they're not. Them and North Carolina are the 2 teams. Nope. Them, North Carolina, Duke, California. There's 4 teams that are bringing 2 quarterbacks to this event. Mm-hmm. So when you look at teams that are bringing 2 quarterbacks to this event, it begs the question, or it brings the question to my mind: are they doing this for the situation that, okay, for California's, for instance, right? Justin Wilcox is there. Fernando Mendoza, quarterback from Miami, Florida. Then you've got Chandler Rogers, quarterback from Mansfield, Texas. Are they doing that so that, let's say, Chandler hits the portal, it's okay because everybody already knows who Fernando is? Or I mean, is it like, for example, with Duke, you've got Grayson Loftus, but then hold on, you've also got Malik Murphy, the kid that came from Texas. So, from what I think Malik Murphy's probably going to be the starter. So I don't know, man. I've just, it's new to me. It's very interesting, and it's honestly, it's the first thing that jumped out to me. Is like, why are these guys bringing 2 quarterbacks? Like
Right.
Max Johnson at Duke, of course, he's traveled all over the nation. He's played for like 17 different teams, I feel like. I know that's sarcasm, but that's the way. But I mean, with the portal, and that's my point. With the portal, don't you kind of have to do this in a way because you want to cater to everyone, and at the same time, you're giving other teams an opportunity to kind of take a look at that player? What's your thoughts on that?
I was kind of speechless on that myself. Yeah, I don't understand it. Why you bring 2 quarterbacks? I guess you brought up the points already regarding transfer portal, but what's wrong with bringing a kicker to the media days, man? Like, kickers mean something these days too, and really kind of surprised by that, to be honest with you. Why bring 2 quarterbacks? I'm kind of surprised by it. I really am. I think, like you said, we all know the name starting quarterbacks, for each team basically by the name, and whatnot. But I'm kind of surprised they did bring 2 quarterbacks. I'm just shocked. I thought maybe you would see like a kicker or a punter that maybe is like on a first team all, listing, for the ACC, and whatnot. So I am kind of surprised to see that list. Didn't really know about it until, being honest with you, I really didn't know about it until a couple of days ago. I'm like, why are they doing this? I don't know. I don't know the answer to that, really. Except for, I guess, maybe trying to see how they do. Them person, I don't know. Maybe we brought up last week. Could be all about clicks. Who knows?
Yeah, I mean, it's, we're talking about how good these quarterbacks are, and I mean, that's also what's kind of in my mind too. I mean, 8 quarterbacks from the ACC, eight quarterbacks from ACC schools are projected to be Week 1 starters in the 2024 NFL season. 8. That is 25% of the NFL. Since 2018, the ACC has had at least 1 quarterback drafted in the first round in 5 different drafts. They're the only conference to do so. I mean, then you look at the coaching in the ACC. 6 ACC head coaches were named to the 2024 Dodd Trophy preseason watch list as announced by the Bobby Dodd Coach of the Year Foundation and the Peach Bowl, which is the most by any conference. 2 of the 3 active coaches to win national championships, to win national titles, reside in the ACC. Dabo Swinney led Clemson to national titles in 2016, 2018, and Mac Brown led national title to Texas in 2005. Obviously, Texas is not in the ACC, but there's something about the way quarterbacks are being groomed, coached, whatever term you want to use. And obviously it's working. I mean, 8 of the last 11 years, there's been a team from the ACC that's either been in the college football player for the BCS national championship, 2 teams in 2020. So, I mean, they have the second most national titles over the last 11 years, and only 1 of 2 conference with a 500 or better record in the first 10 years of the college football playoff. Last year, they had 11 teams make a bowl, which was the most among any conferences in the nation. So, I mean, there's a lot of talk about how strong the SEC is and how dominant the SEC is. But, I mean, the stats that I'm reading off tells me the ACC is just as comparable to the SEC. Would you agree with that?
Well, especially when a lot of people are predicting to be a surprise team in the playoff this year in Virginia Tech. From top to bottom this year, this league might be having everybody beat everybody, for example. but it's going to be good for that league just because I think, like you brought up, good coaching, good players. And it's going to be interesting. A lot of people got Virginia Tech making that playoff somehow, and they're thinking that Virginia Tech might squeak a 10-game win schedule on their belt this year. But the reason I brought up Georgia Tech's quarterback, a couple of minutes ago with you is because some key games on their schedule are basically at home, where Georgia Tech definitely needs to, make some noise this year to win the 8 or 9 games because they played Notre Dame in Mercedes-Benz, but it's basically like a home game, but we know Notre Dame is going to travel pretty well. But the game's in Atlanta in Mercedes-Benz. You also got Miami at home, North Carolina State at home back-to-back. So if Georgia Tech can win 8 or 9 games this year, I think it's going to be a successful year for Georgia Tech. But to be honest with you, ACC, I think right now, to be honest with you, it's going to be interesting. A lot of people are predicting these teams to basically, like the new SMU and California and all them, to struggle the first year, whatnot in the ACC. But I think, like you brought up earlier, SMU could be a dark horse where they could finish like a top 10, all because of their quarterback play. Their quarterback play is Stone is basically one of the top quarterbacks in the nation for a reason. He's not getting enough notice out there, but SMU could basically surprise some people.
They really could, man. And I mean, and then you talk about coaches. Rhett Lashley's a coach that, very similar to a Mike Norvell style, very, very similar to a Jeff Brom, and others, Dabo. Bill O'Brien is another one that's now in this conference over at Boston College. But there's a lot of signal callers in this league that can put points on the board. One of those I just mentioned, Bill O'Brien. When you look at the coaches in this league, that's a team that I've got my eye on this program because I really want to see how they mold under Bill O'Brien. I want to see how they're built under Bill O'Brien. You think back to Bill O'Brien at his Penn State days in the Big Ten. You think about what he did with that program, of course, after everything that unfolded there. I mean, you can Google it. I don't have to go through it. I'm not going to go through it. But you look at what Bill O'Brien did at Penn State. You look at what he made that program into. Of course, now you see what James Franklin has done with it since. But you look at this league. I mean, you talk about Justin Wilcox, another really good signal caller. Dabo Swinney, we know what he can do. Manny Diaz on the defensive side of things. Manny's one of the best guys around, and that is a very, very, very. Manny has made some interesting decisions when it comes to where he has gone to be a head coach. None of them have been easy choices. Think about it. He went to Miami. He went to Temple for what, 10 minutes?
1 minute.
I mean, yeah. And then now he's at Duke. That's another team that I'm going to have my eye on is the Duke Blue Devils. Mike Elko leaves. We saw what he was building at Duke. Now can Manny Diaz come in and continue that, but just with a different philosophy? There's talent there, man. And then he goes and gets a guy like Malik Murphy. I mean, you go pull him. That's pretty good. And I mean, let's be honest. He had the Penn State Manny Diaz, I'm talking about, had the Penn State defense playing really, really, really well. Really well. But when you look at these coaches, man, who is a coach, John, that you think is really kind of underrated and not really talked about enough?
Well, can I say something about Duke first of all before I answer that? Because they did finish the year 8-5 last year. They do return 5 offensive starters and 5 defensive starters. But the real question for Duke and Coach Diaz, are they gonna? Right now they're predicted toward the bottom, in that league this year because they're returning starters, whatnot. But in year 1 under Coach Manny Diaz, how many wins can you maybe see a Duke program to have a successful year? I know in years past you had 8 to 10 wins, and whatnot. But how many wins in year one under Diaz do you consider a successful first year, as the ACC with the new revamp scheduling that they got? How many wins do you see Monty or Coach Diaz, maybe how many for Duke fans to be happy with the product still of Duke football, where they beat a top 25 team year in, year out? How many wins can Duke fans be happy with under Coach Diaz for the first year? Maybe like 6 or 7, maybe? Or do you think they need to win 8 games for them to be happy again under this first year, Coach Diaz?
I mean, you look at what Mike Elko did, and I don't have it in front of me. I mean, the last 5 years, whatever, how long he was there. I think he was there 3 years. But I mean, you win 8. You won 8 last year. So I mean, is 7 really a regression? And I don't know. I mean, yes, 6, anywhere from 6 to 8 wins. I really don't see Duke getting more than 7 to 8 wins, honestly. And I mean, hey, if it happens, you can flip back to this video and you can script it and tell me I'm an idiot. It's fine. I just don't see it. Looking at what they've got coming back. I mean, this is no offense to Manny Diaz, but you look at track record. You look at everything. Encompass everything into one. There's talent on the team. I'm not saying that, but you've also got to look at Duke's kind of like the Vanderbilt of the ACC. You not just everyone can go can go play ball at Duke. You know what I'm saying? I mean, it's there's some levels of standard that have to be met. And it's going to be a lot of fun. Another team that I'm really interested to look at, and we got Larry Fedora, former head coach of North Carolina, coming on this roughly 10 minutes. You're sitting down at the Sports Buffet, 4-Star Sports Media. It's July 22nd, 2024. We appreciate everybody watching and listening. We got the live feed going over there as well. John Sturdivant, as well as myself, Wes Pruitt. But, John, when you look at North Carolina, another head coach, man, I like Mac Brown. I've always liked him. He may or may not be on a list at the end of the show. But he brings in 2 quarterbacks. Max Johnson, former, went to left LSU and went to where? Texas A&M? Isn't that where he went? Texas A&M, former Texas A&M quarterback. Then you bring in Connor Harrell from Alabaster, Alabama. But this team's got talent. They're going to play with a lot of fight. They're going to give it all they got. And Mac Brown's one of the best rah-rah coaches, and there ain't nothing better than watching that old man get down after a win. There's nothing better than watching Mac Brown dance, dude. I love watching that man. Every time they win, I go straight to their social media, and I'm like, got to watch Mac get it. And I kind of want to talk to Larry Fedora about that type of thing too. But man, what's your thoughts? Yeah. What's your thoughts on North Carolina?
North Carolina, I think. Well, let me say that first. The question that you asked me before that, Duke. The coaches that really got to improve something real quick in this league this year, or maybe 2 coaches on the hot seat. Can you guess what teams they are by any chance before I say it? All right, I'm going to go with Dave Clawson from Wake Forest. He won 4 games last year, but he returns 8 offensive starters and 7 defensive starters. And I think this is the year Wake Forest definitely needs to get over that 4-win mark. For Dave Clawson been there now 11 years. And I feel like the only team that he's had pretty good was when Kenneth Walker was at running back for Wake Forest before he transferred to Michigan State. Pittsburgh Panthers also another team. Pat Narduzzi, I think, definitely needs to make – I know he's been there 10 years as well, but Pittsburgh needs to go back to win the 7 or 8 games again, basically to be a successful program like they have been when Kenny Pickett was there at quarterback back in the day. But, I think these 2 coaches definitely got something to improve this year, especially when they've been at their school long enough. If you don't win 6 or 7 games this year, or 8 games, or even 9 games, and you go to like 3-9 or 4-8 or even 5-7 again, I think you're on the way out of those 2 programs. And it's gonna be interesting for those 2 coaches. But go ahead. What was that question again?
You bring up a great point about Dave Dorn, and we'll get Tony Siracusa in here to talk him. I know him and Dave they're tight.
Yeah.
Tony does an incredible job covering the Wake Forest Demon Deacons, and that's another school, John, very similar to Duke, that their entrance requirements are not, what others are. But yeah, no, it's a great point on both of those guys. But yeah, no, when you look at North Carolina, it's a team that I'm very, very excited about. Looking forward to seeing how they do. I really enjoyed their uniform color combinations. They've been kind of getting wild, and I feel like Fedora was one of the first ones when he was there that really kind of branched it out a little bit, did some different stuff. And if I remember correctly, John, wasn't he one of the first to kind of do some different stuff down at Southern Miss too? Or was that what was the guy's name before him?
Bowers.
What was that guy's name?
Bowers.
I can't remember what his name is. Is that what it was? Was it Powers?
Bowers. Yeah, I think so. But
Bowers. Jeff Bowers is what his name was. But I was thinking that Fedora was one of the first to like do the white helmets and stuff like that.
But yeah, I think so. Yeah, like you talked about with North Carolina, I think this is the year. It's going to be interesting to finish the year 8-5 last year, 6 returning starters on offense, 7 defensive starters. But heck, man, first game right off the bat at Minnesota on a Thursday night on the Big Ten Network, probably more likely, or FS1 or Fox rode the boat. And Charlotte, is Charlotte, but that's another game that's interesting on the schedule per se. North Carolina Central, and then you got James Madison, an interesting non-conference matchup right off the bat. Well, 2 of them on your first 4 games in Minnesota and James Madison, where a lot of people are thinking that James Madison can go into Chapel Hill and beat a Matt Brown football team. And then they play at Duke, home for Pittsburgh, home for Georgia Tech, bye week at Virginia, at Florida State, home for Wake, at Boston College, and home for North Carolina State. They might have lost a lot of position quarterbacks at times for North Carolina, but they do seem to players enter the portal and go to North Carolina for a reason, and they do seem to produce. For example, Ty Chandler, the former running back at Tennessee that went on to North Carolina after that. Who would have thought Ty Chandler would have got that much better at North Carolina under Matt Brown? I know I might have, but to be honest with you, 9 wins this year for North Carolina is definitely the radar. Definitely it's going to be an interesting year for the boys in Chapel Hill regarding not only their non-conference games, but their conference games that are at home where they need to capitalize and win those games at home.
Most definitely, man. The ACC kickoff, of course, it goes on for the next 3 days. We've got today, tomorrow, Wednesday, and Thursday. Always exciting to hear what these coaches have to say. I really enjoy the breakaway sessions where you get to talk to the players more one-on-one, things of that nature. John, let's get a guy on next that knows a little bit about the ACC kickoff and how it all works. And that is, as we talked about earlier, former North Carolina head coach Larry Fedora. Coach, thank you very much for joining us.
You bet, guys. How y'all doing today?
Good, Coach. Thanks for coming on.
You bet. I can't hear you. If you can't, all of a sudden if you're talking, I can't hear you.
Hey, Coach, can you hear me?
Yeah, now I hear you.
Yeah, Coach Fedora, I just want to say also for everything that you've done for the college football, I've always been a fan of yours. So thank you for coming on again.
Yeah, you bet.
Just talking about your background a little bit in general for our fans.
Okay, my background. Wow. All right. Well, I grew up in the state of Texas, played high school ball in the state of Texas, went to a small school, Austin College up in Sherman, Texas, played ball up there. We won a national championship in 81. Got out of college, started coaching at the high school level at suburb of Dallas, Garland High School. Was there about 4 or 5 years and then went on to be a GA at Baylor University under Grant Taft for his last 2 years and got hired on when he retired. Stayed there for another 4 years and went to the Air Force Academy with Fisher DeBerry. I was there a couple of years, and then was fortunate to get an offensive coordinator's job at Middle Tennessee State under Andy McCollum. From there, I moved to the University of Florida, where I was the offensive coordinator for Ron Zook. From there to Oklahoma State with Mike Gundy as his offense coordinator, about 3 years, and then got the head job at Southern Miss. Was at the University of Southern Mississippi for 4 years, and then went to the University of North Carolina in 2012. So after Carolina in 2018, I went to be a consultant at the University of Texas. And then I was an offense coordinator for Dave Aranda in his first year during COVID. And then I took a head coach job with the USFL with the New Orleans Breakers. And then I retired. So 36 years of marriage, 4 kids, and 17 moves.
Amazing background there, Coach.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's coaching for you.
Wow. That is in depth, Coach. So I guess the most important question of the day is, who is your team right now that you're rebuilding on College Football 25?
That's funny. My son, who's 32 years old, got that, and he texts me all the time. Goes, "Hey, what about this player? What do I do here? I don't even know what he's talking about. I can't be honest with you. I've never played the game."
Wow, that's shocking.
You never had time as a coach
funny.
to, what were you going to do?
That's
You're going
funny.
to, get home after.
So, Coach.
Sorry
about that, Coach. We're having a little bit of delay.
Yeah, my audio's got some delay to it. I apologize about that. When you look at the state of college football today, specifically the NIL and transfer portal, what are some things that you see as a coach who's done it for nearly 40 years? What are some things that you see that are happening in the positive direction?
Well, I think the NIL is an excellent idea. I think it's and I think there's been some great things that have come out of it. I think it's taken them a couple of years and maybe another year or two down the road before they finally get it all to where everybody understands it and can do it the right way. With revenue sharing coming in, what is that, 25 or 26? That's going to add to it. And I think that will help control the collectives a little bit that have gotten out of control. The problem I see and the things that I hear from most of my friends out there and peers in the profession that are still in it is the transfer portal. I mean, free agency twice a season. It makes it really hard to build a team and to create some type of bond and atmosphere and culture within your program.
Go ahead, Joe.
Yeah, good answer, Coach. Good answer. The Southern Miss days, Coach. That's how I got to really be a fan of yours back in the day, to be honest with you. Whenever y'all got to play Memphis, and now it's called Simmons Bank Stadium, but the former Liberty Bowl. The Southern Miss Memphis days kind of highlighted your career a little bit, in my opinion, also because you were running down that sideline, yelling at the referee or yelling at the players in general, getting in their faces, that type of fight I enjoy in a coach. So just talk about the Southern Miss Memphis rivalry back in the day a little bit under your coaching career.
Yeah, that was it was a heck of a rivalry, and Memphis has moved up and moved on, but back then we had some great battles. I mean, I think I was fortunate that we won the 4 times I played them, but it was always a battle. We had some really good teams at Southern Miss. I mean, and some really good football players. In 2011, we won the league and we were pretty strong. We still got guys off that team are still playing in the NFL.
So, Coach, when you look at your time in Hattiesburg, Mississippi, what were some things that your time there and that's a really on campus. I mean, you're packed in there. How did that experience and how did that time in Hattiesburg help mold your career?
Well, that's my first job as a head coach. And so, there is a learning curve when you take over a program and Jeff Bowers had done a tremendous job for I think 17 years at Southern Miss. And we come in there and immediately, I think we were 2-6 in that first year. and people were wondering what was going on. And then we caught fire and won out the rest of the season, won our bowl game. It was kind of a new era of offenses. I mean, we were running a no huddle offense. We're before that they were in a 2-back pro style offense, and so we were part of that conversion at Southern Miss and had a lot of success with it. And we got to be where we were. I think we set maybe an NCAA record in 2011 for touchdowns returned, by your defense. I think we had maybe 9 or something. So set a national record. And so we were really good on defense, really good on offense, especially in 11. And, so all the lessons that you learn there, I mean, each and every day as you continue to build your program is what is what I took into University of North Carolina.
All right, Coach.
Go ahead,
my next question for you. You got to coach against a guy that's now retired, Nick Saban. What did Nick Saban mean to you when you were coaching at Florida and other schools? What did Nick Saban mean to college football and to you in general?
Yeah, well, I mean, I do all the way back to when I was at the University of Florida. I was the coordinator. I guess the year that they won the national championship, we went in there with a freshman quarterback and Chris Leak, and we were the only team that beat them that year. And we were very fortunate. And our guys played really hard and in Baton Rouge, and it was a tough atmosphere. From there, when I went to Oklahoma State, Nick was actually coming back to Alabama, and we had talked as far as about being the offense coordinator there at Alabama, but I chose to stay at Oklahoma State. I've had the utmost respect of Nick Saban. I think he's been one of the greatest minds in college football, not only for what he did defensively, but how he evolved as a head coach. That was the thing. I mean, here you've got a guy that's losing 6, 7, 8, assistants every year. They're getting head coaching jobs and moving on, and he's basically rebuilding his staff. The one constant was him, and he always held his team and his coaches to a high standard. And I think, probably he was able to accomplish what most coaches can't do, which is the hardest thing to do in college football, which is to get your team to play at a high level week in and week out every game of a year. And Nick probably did the best job of that of anybody I knew.
Classic.
Incredible. Yeah, no doubt. Coach, when you look at coaches of today and you look at guys like Lane Kiffin, guys like Rhett Lashley and others that have these, Josh Heupel is another guy that comes to mind. You even said it yourself. You were one of the first guys, quote unquote, back in the day. I feel like it's back in the day. I guess it's really not, to really open the playbook up per se, and really start expanding the fields. Where do you see this offense really taking off from here? And then secondly, who are some guys, some mentors that really made you open your mind up to a more expanded offense?
Yeah, I'll start out with that first. When I got the offensive coordinator's job at Middle Tennessee State, and back in, I think it was 90, right at the end of 99, and the head coach, Andy, said, what are you going to do offensively? And I said, well, I think I've always wanted to do spread it out and go no huddle, which there was only one team in the country at that time. No, you won't even remember this, but there was only one team in the country that was doing it, and that was Tulane. And, with Tommy Bowden, they were doing it, and Rich Rodriguez was the OC, and they were going no huddle the entire time. And so they were the only team. And so we jumped in and did it. And I mean, with the players we had at Middle Tennessee State, we got to be pretty dang good on offense. I mean, we scored a lot of points, and national rankings, we were up there in the top 15 for a couple of years. And so, I would have to say, for me, it would have been, we used to have these things called one-back clinics back in the day, and it was just a handful of coaches in the country that wanted to be one back. And we spent a lot of time with each other in the off season doing that. And that's probably kind of where a lot of the things that I was doing evolved. And then, we just went from there.
That's so cool. And I believe Sean King was the quarterback back in those days, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, he was. Sean King was the quarterback, and they were really good. And that's what Tommy rode that into Clemson. And, but these young coaches, where is it going? I will say that I think defenses have done a better job getting smaller and spreading the field and making plays in open spaces. But it's still 53 and a quarter or 3/4 wide, and it's a lot of space to cover. You start putting the ball in some of these guys' hands out in space that can make plays, and it makes it really tough on a defense. I think that, the game has evolved to RPOs, and, everybody's doing RPOs, even the pros now. I think that will continue. I think a lot of that will continue to be put on the quarterback's shoulders. That's why if you don't have a quarterback, you're not going to have success, no matter how good your team is. It's the way it is. If you're going to spread it out and throw it around a little bit, you got to have a quarterback that can, can spin it and also make really good decisions.
Go ahead, John.
Yeah, Coach, I love that you brought up Middle Tennessee days from 1999 to 2001. I know y'all had a lot of up and downs, but you got to coach one of the players I got to watch in high school when I was a teenager. Shout out to Middleton Central High School Trojan football team and Tyrone Calico.
Oh, yeah. Calico, man. What a special player. Now, Calico was about, maybe 6'4", 6'5", and could run, when I got there, Calico was like a defensive end. And we moved him back over to receiver. And, I can remember against Mississippi State that year, they had Fred Smoot, who was a great player. Went on and played for many years in NFL, and Calico had 2 touchdowns on him in that game, just wore him out. He did a heck of a job. So, yeah, Tyrone Calico, he was a heck of a player.
Yeah, former Tennessee Titan shout out. So, yeah.
That's cool. Coach, last question from me, and it's more about Larry Fedora, the man. When you wake up every day, what is your why in life outside of coaching?
Yeah, outside of coaching, since I retired a couple of years ago, I had to really take a good look at my life and what I wanted to do. And really for me nowadays, it's, spending as much time with my wife and family and friends, because 38 years of coaching, you don't get to do that very often. You get a couple of weeks in the summer, that's it. Those guys are grinding. They're grinding every day. And so you do that for 38 years, and it's now I'm making up for lost time. Actually, my wife and I have enjoyed, we're doing a lot of traveling, and I just got back from Colorado with, playing golf with one of my best friends for a while out there. And, hey, the main thing is I wake up and do whatever I want that day. That's the key.
Hey, you ain't got to worry about winning anything but life. And it sounds like to me, Coach, you're winning every single day.
I'm trying.
Coach, my last question, and again, thank you for coming on with us. And we'll definitely get you during the college football season regarding the playoff to even some crazy games in general regarding this year in general. Might pick some games with us too.
Sure.
So my last question, me and Wes brought up our top 5, top 10 stadiums that we've been to, but I want to ask you, what was the top 5 road environments that you enjoyed going to as a coach?
Well, we played in Baton Rouge at night. That was incredible. Came away with a win, so it was made it even better. Playing in the swamp was pretty dang cool back then. I've been to many games in Aggie Stadium since I was born and raised there. So that's a really tough place to play and a lot of fun and then from there I would have to go with probably Alabama. So I don't know if that's 5, but most of them are in the South. I didn't play a lot of games up north, so I don't know the Big House and the Horseshoe and all those things, but I definitely know there's some dang good stadiums in the South.
Most definitely. Well, Coach, we appreciate you carving out some time for us today and coming on the Sports Buffet.
You bet, guys, and I'll be happy to do it anytime. So just give me a yell.
Thanks, Coach.
All righty.
You bet.
Coach
Thank
Larry
you.
Fedora joined us today, man. John, once again, Coach Larry Fedora did an amazing job, and I had forgotten that Fedora was actually at MTSU. Completely forgotten about that. But yeah, and John, to your point, man, the Southern Miss days with Coach Fedora was just an iconic time for me. I mean, that's really where I can remember being down at the Rock and watching Memphis and Southern Miss battle. I mean, really battle in some games down there. Man, John, what a great 10, 15 minutes talking to him.
Yeah, like I talked about with him, that's one of the reason I became a fan of him. I'm not being biased at all, but when we saw him, see, back then we could see anywhere we wanted to between me and you, and
Yeah.
basically, but long story short, like me and you love going to the opposing sidelines growing up, and that's one reason I want to get Coach Fedora on because I love his passion, I love his energy, and yeah, he might not have got a call here and there to make the impact of the game. But the referee heard about it by the end of the night, with Coach Fedora. But yeah, Coach Fedora, passion guy, like he brought up family the last couple of years, man, with him. Just to see him talk about family was pretty cool, and talk about his son buying the video game at 32 years old and calling his dad for advice. Coach, Dad, Coach, what should I run for this? But Coach Larry Fedora, phenomenal guy. Thank you again, Coach Fedora, if you're still watching, for coming on.
No doubt, man. No doubt. And when he was going through his career, I mean, completely, 100%. But yeah, I mean, his time at down in job really attractive. He really did. He really made it attractive. Look, well, I don't know where John went. Where did John go? I don't know where John went, but I was getting ready to go over our list of top 10 coaches. And I don't know where John ran off to. But we thank everybody watching and listening at 4-Star Sports Media social medias. We've got you running live right now on Facebook, YouTube, and on X. Sounds like John might be back in here now.
I'm back.
There he is. There's John. All right, good deal. John is back. All right, John. So it's time for a little dessert. It's time to go over. We'll start with your top 5 coaches.
Top 5 non-power 5. We're going to start out with that, and then we'll go to our top 10 nationally. Top 5, man, like a lot of people are getting a little bit of grief right now on what's going on in the Utah State football program, but this is not regarding his Utah State football program. It's regarding his Arkansas State coaching days, where he was going through a lot. I'm going to give Blake Anderson my number 5 spot, although he was tied with Coach Fedora when he was coaching at Southern Miss. So, yeah, 2 great coaches right there at number 5. Number 4, throwback, Wes, 2010 to 2020. The Marshall Thundering Herd and John Doc Holliday. I just love his passion, for the sport of the game. So that's my number 4 spot. Number 3, Brenton Stockstill at Middle Tennessee. He was there for like 20 years. Another guy that loved the passion of the sport, where top to bottom, like I know the last couple of years, Middle Tennessee wasn't up to par, and whatnot. They just let him go last year, and they just showed the players around him that seemed to love him too, and were always rallying around him too at times as well. So that's my number 3 spot. Number 2, I guess I'll go with Mike Norvell for the Memphis days, when he was basically took us to the Cotton Bowl. I know he didn't coach in that Cotton Bowl, but heck, man, like his passion on that sideline, the players still love him today. The alumni still reach out to him today. So that's my number 2 spot. But number 1, Chris Peterson from Boise, man. The Boise State Oklahoma game, where I definitely kind of fell I do like Chris Peterson a lot. Chris Peterson Boise days were pretty legit with Kellen Moore at quarterback, Ian Johnson proposing to his girlfriend at the end of the game. So Chris Peterson, the way that he did Boise, where Boise definitely, if the college football playoff started back then, where he expanded to 12 teams, you would probably have seen a Boise team under Chris Peterson make that playoff spot. So that's where Chris Peterson goes in number 1 at Boise. What you got?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I like Peterson a lot, and I really, I mean, I'll never forget where I was watching that game. I'll never forget the play, the old Statue of Liberty, beautiful play call. Man, John, this is a little bit tougher than I expected it. All right, man. Let's go. I'm going to go Tommy Bowden at Tulane.
Is this like number 5 spot or number 1 spot?
I'm going to go. Let's go his brother. Let's go Terry Bowden at Louisiana Monroe. I like Terry. He did. I mean, I've been down there. I've watched it. You're not going to win. I like Terry Bowden, but I mean, he's done a good job there. June Jones, and I'll go ahead and tell you now, he's on my top 10. But June Jones with Tommy Chang, Norman Chow was the offensive coordinator of that Hawaii team back in the day. He is one that I 5. I really like the Doc Marshall. I had forgotten about him. Mm-hmm. I really like that. And you know what? Now, this was pre the conference number 1, and this is nothing to do with what happened at Penn State, folks. I'm just talking about Greg Schiano at Rutgers and the job he did at turning that program around. Obviously, he's back there now, but the OG version of Greg Schiano at Rutgers, because at that time he was in the CUSA.
Understandable. Top 10 nationally coaches. I'll go with my number 10 spot. Jim Tressel from Ohio State. The Maurice Clarett days back in the day. Number 9. Gosh, man, like these are coaches that are not coaching right now, I might add too. So if we had coaches that are still coaching right now, they would have been, I mean, the coaches that are still coaching would go like after they probably get done with their, like Dabo Swinney, for example, will wait for that list when he retires, I guess, whatnot. But number 9 was basically a tough one, but I'm going to go with Pete Carroll. Southern Cal days, Reggie Bush, Matt Leinart days, and Pete Carroll's number 9. Number 8, he might get a lot of grief still today because of his heart conditions, whatnot. People joke around about him coaching again. Urban Meyer, from the Utah days, from Alex Smith to the Tim Tebow days at Florida. Number 7, we'll do Bob Stoops.
Don't forget about Bowling Green.
Yeah, Bowling Green too, where he came into GMAC Bowl and beat us. But yeah. But number 7, I'm going to go with Bob Stoops. Bob Stoops, I'll go with number 7 because Bob Stoops is still coaching today, I might add, in the UFL. So number 6 was kind of tough too, but I'm going to go with Steve Spurrier at my number 6 list. I enjoyed those Danny Warfel days back on the sidelines as well when he was the coach at Florida, and still does well for the Florida program right now, what he does right now, supporting the alumni, whatnot as well. Number 5, Joe Paterno. I know a lot of people are like, why did you get Joe Paterno on the list? But who didn't love that old guy on that sideline?
Legendary coach,
and whatnot. Number 4, Mark Richt.
Shirt and tie, baby.
Yeah, Mark Richt, number 4, man. Like the Georgia days to the Miami days to now what he's doing today, by still going through that terrible disease that he has to basically be on the ACC network and still talking to coaches and players today. Gotta love his passion for the love of football. Number 3, Beamer from Virginia Tech, legendary coach. People still know him today. Number 2, Nick Saban, the go to college football, other than Bobby Bowden, who's my number 1, but the go to college football the last 15 years. Nick Saban, number 2, and just the way that people talked about him. Yeah, I could easily had Nick Saban at number 1 and Bobby Bowden number 2, but those are top 2 regarding that. But yeah, it was tough. But just the way that coaches around the country talked about him last week, even Coach Fedora talking about him, made me realize how important Nick Saban was to college football.
$100%. All right, man. Are you ready for my list? It is a hodgepodge of eras.
Go ahead, my friend.
All right, number 10. I'm going to go Sylvester Croom from Mississippi State. Huge fan of him and what he did. Really, when you look at the state of Mississippi State's day, when you look at Dan Mullen and what he was able to do, you cannot diminish what Sylvester Croom did to get that program right. So he's my number 10.
Hey,
number 9 is June Jones.
Speaking of Croom, for 1 second, do you know what game I was at where they lost to that nobody thought they would lose to in 2005? Maine University.
I mean, I can't thought. I forgot about that. They did lose to Maine.
I was at that game.
You were. I forgot about that. I don't remember why you were there, but you were there. I do remember that.
A family member.
That's so funny, man. All right. Where am I at? Number 9?
Yeah.
What'd I say? All right. Yeah. So number 9, June Jones from Hawaii back in the day, also coached SMU later in his time too. Number 8 is Steve Spurrier, but not from Florida. Now, I don't get me wrong. It was cool. It was fun watching the Chomp. But that man at South Carolina was so much fun to watch. He was older. He didn't give a crap. He would tell you how it was. One of the best things I ever saw was they walk up to him during spring practice. And he's like, we didn't complete 5 passes today. I don't know how we're going to win the game. This team's slow. This team's terrible. We practiced terrible all week. He just negative. And at the very end, he looks at him and goes, how'd you like if a coach walked up and told you that? So, I mean, I love Spurrier. He's always got something smart to say. Just incredible. Number 7 is Lou Holtz. I remember him at Notre Dame. I was young, but I remember him at Notre Dame. But, man, his time at South Carolina, you go back and look at that team. They were, 1-11 the year before he got there. They were 0-12 the first year he was there. And then he spun it right around and got that team winning football games. And I loved the throwback classic look that he put with that team. Number 6, John, you ready? It's Jackie Sherrill. Jackie Sherrill from the Mississippi State days. Dude,
that was so tough.
I'm a big Jackie Sherrill guy, man. Always have been. Really, really like him as a football coach. And he's a Memphian too. Number 5 is Terry Bowden from the Auburn days. It was nothing better than looking in the 90s and seeing that Auburn hat with those lines across it with the old Auburn logo, and seeing that white shirt with the orange and blue stripe and white tie. And there's Terry Bowden. Just, let's get him, boys. I loved it, man. Terry Bowden's one of my favorites. Number 4, Rich Rodriguez. I still to this day follow the guy. Still to this day go back and try to find film and watch films on his offense and others. Fedora also spoke about Rich Rod, which was kind of funny. And I guess I had forgotten that Rich Rod was Tommy Bowden's OC at Tulane. Number 3, people are going to laugh at me here. Dennis Francione. I always liked Dennis Francione from his time at Texas A&M and then his time at Alabama. I mean, if he would have just stayed out of the strip club, he could still be the coach for all we know. But Dennis Francione, man, number 3. Number 2 is Frank Beamer. I was always a big Beamer ball guy. It kind of created my love for special teams, for blocking punts, things of that nature. And it's very funny because the two guys that Frank Beamer and my number 1, both coaches that took over for these two guys, learned the hard way that it's almost impossible to take over for a legend. You got to kind of wait. You got to let that first guy get in there and get messed up, and then you come in and clean that up. You know what I mean? It doesn't look as bad when you come and clean up that other guy's mess. But Frank Beamer, and I mean, no offense to Justin Fuente about that statement. It's really hard to come in and continue to win behind a legend. It's very hard. I mean, it's, and then number 1's Bobby Bowden. Bobby Bowden's probably my all-time favorite football coach, without question. I mean, I'm going to catch slack from people in my family that don't like him and others, but that's fine. I look at the way that we hear people speak about Nick Saban today. They've spoken about Bobby Bowden for the last 50 years. You're not going to find too many people that speak ill of Bobby Bowden. You won't. Now, was he clean? I don't know. Was anybody clean? Who knows? Did they win? Yeah. They won a lot. I mean, you go back and watch, that 1990, that man, I mean, as bad as people want to, that 99 team was really good, man. That 99 team was good. That 98 team was good. I honestly believe that, speaking of Tulane, I honestly believe the 1990, what was that, 98 team that went undefeated for Tulane with Sean King, or 99. Yeah. I honestly believe that team should have played for a national championship. I think that, and this is just my opinion, it's not a slack against Tennessee. It's not a shot. It's nothing. This is my honest opinion. I think Tulane would have beat Tennessee, and I think Tulane would have given Florida State a better football game. I mean, obviously Tennessee won, but I think that would have been, and that was a good game, don't get me wrong, but that game between Florida State and Tulane would have been electric.
By the way, it was Mike Price that did the strip clubs. But yeah.
It was Mike Price. You're right. Well, if yeah. He was the one that was he went to UTEP. That's right. He ended up going to UTEP. I forgot about him. That's right. Yeah.
Who's your honorable mission that was kind of tough? Mine was Philip Fulmer, to be honest with you. Philip Fulmer still supports Tennessee today, still has a capacity up to Tennessee today. I think Philip Fulmer definitely should have been on that list, but it was too close to call. But Philip Fulmer definitely is on that list, in my opinion, for honorable mention.
Man, I had a few. I mean, Philip Fulmer was one. Yeah, Philip Fulmer was one for sure. Urban Meyer was another one. I really like Urban Meyer. Ron Zook was another one. I always liked Zook. The guy that was at BYU forever, I can't think of what his name is now. He was another one, man, that was it Sonny Lubbock or whatever his name was. I really enjoyed his teams. Another one is Rick Neuheisel. Shout out Rick Neuheisel. If you're happy to listen to XM Radio. Rick Neuheisel, man, him in Colorado was fun. Always really enjoyed him. Tyrone Willingham was another one, John, that was tough. Dude, I'll be honest with you. I compiled a list of top 50 and went from there.
Oh, wow.
So, I mean, when I tell you that this top 10 was hard, I mean, once I got to 20, I was like, oh my gosh, like, can I just make 2 lists? Because right. I mean, it's, I enjoy these lists. We're going to continue to do them on Mondays. We'll do them on Mondays or Fridays, but I enjoy the list. And man, dude, Larry Fedora came on and did an incredible job. If you're happen to still be watching, Coach, I'm sure you're got other things going on. But if you happen to still be watching, we really appreciate you coming on and carving out some time. I apologize for my technical difficulties. For some reason, you start adding people and this thing gets slow. I don't know why. But we appreciate everybody watching and listening. John, do what?
I said that or bad weather that we are experiencing a little bit here and there, like in your area, my area, the last couple of hours as well, because there is some rain experiencing in our area as well regarding, people are saying like 50% to 60%, depending on the hour, because it is the summertime. So, yeah.
Yeah. And if you're needing tickets for anything, just head over to SeatGeek. When you get to SeatGeek, go create you a login. Once you create that login, then you can go in and create you a profile. Create that profile, create you a login, get you the password, write the password down so you don't forget it, and then go in there and find you any ticket, $50 or more. And then you put that promo code right there that's down there at the bottom of the screen. It says 4-Star Sports Media all together. You put that promo code in, it'll save you $20 off your first ticket purchase. And if you don't believe us, go stick it in there and we'll let you know if it's true or not. So I guarantee it works. But we appreciate everybody watching and listening. We will be back on Wednesday and as well as on Friday. Wednesday, we'll be back in the morning. 8:15 to 9:30ish. And then Friday will be a Friday evening jam-packed week this week. So we've got Tigers Den on Wednesday night. We've got Hogs Happy Hour on Thursday. We've got Buffe on Friday. Plus, we've got Over Under, which will be on air this Sunday. We apologize for it not being on air this past week. Had some scheduling conflicts that happened. But we appreciate everybody watching and listening as always. Like I said, if you need tickets, go to SeatGeek. They're the official seat supplier of all of us here at 4-Star Sports Media, and we want them to be yours as well. But for John Sturdivant, I am Wes Pruitt. We appreciate Larry Fedora, our guest, coming on today and talking football, life, and more. You've been watching and sitting down, and I hope you're full of sports from the Sports Buffet right here on the 4-Star Sports Media Network. We will be back on Wednesday, folks. Stay classy.